Hello and welcome back to the Hazzabhajan YouTube channel. It is Harry here, and today it is time to kick off a brand new segment on my channel, the Football Alphabet. Admittedly, I'm taking an idea from a radio show I did a couple of years back, but I thought it'd be quite a cool spin on the standard football channel tropes. With that disclaimer out the way, I present to you the Football Alphabet. Cue confetti raining from the sky or the ceiling of my room, which isn't going to happen. But this time, I'm going to do it a little differently. So instead of going from A to Z, I'm instead going to go from Z to A, doing the alphabet backwards. Not only will this add to its originality, but it means I get the most difficult letters done and out the way with first. Each letter will be a 2-video segment, with the first dedicated to clubs and the second all about the players. So when I do a football alphabet video, you can expect the next one to come out at some point over the next week or so. I must stress too that it is players' surnames that I'm focusing on and not their first names when the players video comes around. So for example, Sergio Aguero will feature under A as opposed to S, as that is his surname. Furthermore, anyone with a mid-name in their name such as Van der or D or De will go under the second part of their surname and not under the first part. For example, Virgil van Dijk will feature in the D video, if of course he props up, but not in the V video. Furthermore, prefixes for the clubs such as FC or AFC are disregarded, unless of course the club goes by that name commonly. So for example, the AFC in Bournemouth will not count, but the Olympique and Olympique Marseille and Olympique Lyonnais might just. Today's episode, as you will have guessed by the title, is clubs whose names begin with Z. I'll be profiling them in all their glory, hoping to bring their stories to life in my own idiosyncratic way. So without further ado, here is my collection of clubs whose names begin with Z. Number 1. Zenit St. Petersburg. I must stress that this list is in no particular order in terms of best club to worst club, be it historically or currently, but undoubtedly Zenit's entrance into this list is indisputable. Zenit St. Petersburg are one of the most successful Russian clubs of recent times, but also one of the most controversial. The club was an amalgamation of several clubs, with two, Murzinka and the Stalinets, from works of the Leningrad metal plant, being widely credited as Zenit's direct predecessors. Success couldn't quite follow the club though, and they even had to go through the ignominy of being saved from relegation, as the USSR believed it would be inappropriate to relegate a team from Leningrad during the 50th anniversary of the October Revolution. A league title finally came in 1984 before the USSR split up, and Zenit, obviously, entered the Russian league, where they've been mainstays since 1996. Although they achieved moderate success in the years after that, it was only with the purchase of the club in 2005 by Gazprom that their fortunes really started to turn a corner. Ever since, they have managed to claim 5 Russian league titles, more than anyone else in that time, spoiling the Muscovite clubs' hegemony over the Russian game. Furthermore, they even managed to win the UEFA Cup in 2008, beating Rangers 2-0 at the City of Manchester Stadium. They've even had modern managerial greats such as Luciano Spalletti, Mireo Laucescu, Roberto Mancini, and Andrei Villas-Boas, if you can count him as great, at the club, as well as Hulk, Axel Witsel, Andrei Arshavin, and Branislav Ivanovic, pulling on the white home kit. Furthermore, Dmitry Shostakovich was a supporter of them, so for any music students out there, there's a random stat for you. However, the club does not go without controversy, as their fanbase proclaims themselves to be one of the most racist fan bases out there. Now, I have touched on this in the video I did a couple of weeks ago on discrimination in football and outline, which I will leave a link to in the description. A manifesto on the supporters group website reads, quote, "We are not racist, and for us, the absence of black players is just an important tradition, emphasizing the identity of the club and nothing more. We have absolutely nothing against the inhabitants of these or any other continents, but at the same time, we want players who are close in spirit to speak for Zenit. Now, black players for Zenit are being forced almost by force, and this causes only backlash. Let us be what we are." How lovely. Number 2. Zorta Vardagan. The only club in this video who is actually younger than me. I don't know whether that makes me feel old or not, I'm not quite sure, but Zorta Vardagan were officially founded on the 1st of July 2001. Interestingly, the regions of Zorta and Vardagan are separated by a 10-minute drive, and the club was founded as a partnership between Zorta VV and KSV Vardagan in 2001. The club's offices are based in Zorta, but the stadium is in Vardagan, and the kit is also taken from the latter half of the collaboration. Despite their short history, the club has already become a semi-frequent competitor in Europe in recent years, qualifying for the Europa League in 3 seasons between 2013 and 2017. They've also finished runners-up in the Belgian League in 2012-13, and they've claimed the Belgian Cup twice, once in 2006 and the other in 2017. They have been, as you may have guessed, mainstays in the top flight, and indeed the top half, of Belgian football ever since 2005, when they were promoted from the second tier. and when the Belgian Pro League was cancelled this season, they found themselves in a quite comfortable 9th place. Also, in case you were wondering, Hazzabhajan is the current club of Saido Berahino, so if that ever comes up in a pub quiz, there's the answer. Number 3. FC Zurich. The reason why I do the football alphabet is to bring to life clubs who may have gone under the radar, and to highlight the idiosyncrasies of them all. And FC Zurich are perhaps one of those clubs, despite being one of the most successful clubs in Swiss football. Essentially, we're trying with this to remove the Western canon of football clubs and dig underneath the surface to find clubs who deserve recognition. They were established in 1896, with one of their founding members being Hans/Juan Gamper, who became famous for being one of the people who helped found FC Barcelona. Up until the 1930s, the club included rowing, athletics, and handball clubs on its roster, before switching its focus solely to football. And it was a good decision in the end. After decades of yo-yoing between the top 2 divisions, Zurich enjoyed its best days from the 1960s to the 1980s. They won the Swiss League 7 times between 1963 and 1981, the Swiss Cup 5 times, and they also reached the European Cup semi-finals twice, losing to Real Madrid in 1964 and the eventual winners Liverpool in 1977. Spearheaded by players such as Kubi Kuhn and Fritz Kunzli, their success was almost unparalleled in the Swiss game at the time. Sadly, they wouldn't return to the top until 2005, when they won 3 titles in 4 years, with their last to date coming in 2009. Although they have won the Swiss Cup 3 times between 2014 and 2018, and are regular mainstays in the Europa League group stages, although admittedly, not much more beyond that. Number 4, Železničar. I apologise for that pronunciation, I really hope that was alright. To any Bosnian viewers out there, I hope it was okay. One of the most significant clubs to come out of Bosnia-Herzegovina, if not the most significant, Železničar were founded in 1921 by a group of railway workers, but immediately they ran into financial, as well as political, trouble. They were embracing a various cultural backgrounds in a country which was at the time deeply divided ethnically, and they were subsequently, and quite sadly, oppressed by the authorities as a result of their diversity and multiculturalism. Furthermore, in order to raise funds for footballs and shoes, they arranged dance nights to make up the funds. The club eventually made it through and set about establishing themselves as a dominant force in the Yugoslav game, becoming the only Bosnian representative for a long time in the Yugoslav League. Before too long though, the club were embroiled in a match-fixing scandal as they agreed to throw games in the 1963-64 season in return for financial compensation against relegation-threatened teams Hajduk Split and NK Trzeziewka. That'll do. Their goalkeeper, Ranko Planinic, came clean, and the incident was later dubbed the Planinic Affair, in some kind of depraved honour. But although they, as well as the other 2 teams involved, were hit with relegation, they appealed, and their punishment, seen by many as too draconian, was reduced to a 6-point deduction, although many club officials were banned for life from any footballing activities regardless. Until the split of Yugoslavia, Železničar won only 1 title back in 1972, although reaching the UEFA Cup semi-finals in 1985 was, and will probably remain, their best showing in Europe. In 1992, one of their games was abandoned after gunfire was heard in Sarajevo, where they are based. It would prove to be the last game of the Yugoslav League. Post-split, they have dominated the Bosnian game, winning 6 titles and cups, although no league since 2013, having finished second this season behind their fierce rivals FK Sarajevo. Edin Dzeko, the former Manchester City and current Roma striker, and Edin Visca, the vice-captain and starman of Istanbul Başakşehir in Turkey, are 2 notable alumni. Number 5, Zamalek. Now I'm going to limit these to 5 per video, so 5 clubs and 5 players each. And taking our first tour out of Europe for this video, our final entrance in my Z Hall of Fame, not Z list, just Z, are one of Africa's greatest and most successful teams. Zamalek were founded in 1910 as Kasser El Nau Club by a Belgian lawyer, according to historians, before changing the name to Cairo International Sports Club in 1913. However, in 1941, they were named after the King of Egypt and Sudan, Farouk I, who bestowed royal sponsorship upon them, although after a military coup in 1952, they were reverted back to Zamalek. They had 7 consecutive runners-up positions in the National League between 1950 and 1959. Some seasons were cancelled, it is worth noting, before winning the first of their 12 league titles in 1960, the last of which coming in 2015. That sounds like an impressive number, although it pales into a speck when you put it into comparison with their cross-city rivals Al Ahly, who have won 41 titles, including 12 of the last 13 completed seasons. Zamalek have had to settle for second on a record 33 occasions, although 27 Egyptian Cups, not far off Al Ahly's record of 36, including 6 of the last 7, is a brilliant achievement nonetheless. They have even won Africa's premier continental club competition 5 times, all coming between 1984 and 2002. In any other African country, they'd be the most successful in their nation, but unfortunately, as a result of Al Ahly's dominance, they are not. Sadly, their history is tainted by two tragic stadium disasters. One occurred during a game against Dukla Prague in 1974, where 48 people sadly died during a stampede, and the other took place in 2015, where 20 supporters were killed by policemen, allegedly at the demand of the club's president. This one was perhaps more poignant than the first stadium disaster, as the stadium ban on Egyptian football following the Port Said disaster, in which 79 people were sadly killed, had just been lifted, and following this tragedy it was reinforced until 2018. Notable players include Hassan Sheheta, a man who would go on to the 3 consecutive Africa Cup of Nations titles with Egypt, Mido, who played for Spurs, and Amir Zaki, who was a 2-month wonder on loan at Wigan back in 2008, and then wandered off into obscurity. That concludes the first episode of, well, 52, you might have probably guessed that by now, of the Football Alphabet with the club edition of Z. But in the meantime, please consider hitting the like button if you enjoyed the video, comment down below with what you think of this, and subscribe for more because, as I say, there are a lot of good quality videos coming. I hope. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.